So very interestingly, quite a lot of people have signed up for this workshop, for this class, but not many people are here. But the good news is that the best students are here, and the rest of the best students will be watching the recording later. So we're okay. Okay. So the purpose of the title of this session is Tackling Assignments, Understanding Requirements. So for the first for our first 3 weeks together, we had 3 sessions on an introduction to academic writing, and now this is the first of 3 sessions where we look at tackling assignments specifically. So now we're going to apply what we've covered in academic introduction to academic writing to the practical task of completing our assignments. And as a starting point, so I have I have a task for you about kind of what we already know about academic writing. And what you see here is it's quite a common research tool. Do you know what this is called when you have a list of statements and then you're asking participants to agree, disagree, strongly disagree? In terms of research.
A survey.
There's a specific name for this kind of this range of possible answers that express attitude.
Possibility or something? Or?
The extent of,
Yeah, so I mean, you're calling it a survey or questionnaire. So this is a type of, this is something we often see in surveys and questionnaires. Yeah. But what I'm showing you here is called a Likert scale.
Likert.
Usually we'll have like 5 options, and the middle one will be neither yes nor no, and there'll be like strong yes, strong no. We've got people coming in now. Now this this table is in the Google document, but in a moment I'm going to send you to a breakout room to discuss the 10 statements. Okay, and I want you to discuss it in terms of your own attitude to these statements. So we've got things like writing well is a talent that you either have or you don't have. And you're going to think, yeah, I agree, or no, I disagree, or I strongly agree, I strongly disagree. And so on. We've got kind of 10 statements in total. So if you find it easier to do this, you might want to take a photo of the screen now, and then you'll have it to refer to. But if you've got the Google document open, you just have to scroll down and you'll be able to see them. So you can read through the statements. You can, how many people are here? Okay. Yeah, you can read through the statements, decide which ones you agree or disagree with. And in a moment, you're going to go into a breakout room with 1 or 2 other students. And I'd just like you to have a conversation, tell each other which ones you agree with, which ones you disagree with. If there's anything in any of the statements that you find unusual or confusing, you can talk about it, and I'm sure you can help each other. If you have any problem in the breakout room and like your partner is not speaking to you, then just come back or send me a message and I'll put you in a different room. But I very strongly believe that learning is a social activity. We learn from being members of groups. So that's why I want you to talk to one another. And you'll find your group work more productive, I think, if you've got your cameras on and you're using microphones. Okay, so do encourage each other to do that. I'm going to open the rooms now. You'll go in automatically, and I will call you back in 4 minutes. Hi, Magdalena.
Hello.
I'll call you back in 4 minutes after you've had a chance to say which ones you agree with, which ones you disagree with, and then we can put our heads together. This table, actually, I adapted it from this teeny little book. You sometimes see these at university bookshops. This is a book called Writing for University by a wonderful woman called Jean Godfrey. There are references. There's a reference in the Google document. Usually costs about £5, and it's really small. So I don't want to have a fight with any of you, but Jean Godfrey says that everything here is a myth. She strongly disagrees with everything. And I'm not the kind of person that will disagree with Jean Godfrey. Okay. And yeah, I think none of these things are true. If you think you're not talented at writing, it's fine. You can become better.
Yeah.
There isn't one standard way. It depends upon your subjects, the tasks that you're doing. Different assignments might require a different type of writing, and so on and so on. Now, obviously, we're all friends, but does anyone want to disagree with Jean Godfrey?
No.
No.
Is that surprising, the idea that none of these things are true?
For me, it wasn't surprising.
Yeah, I agree, because with the first questions, I just was gonna put either disagree, which, or we were thinking the other one, but then the more I thought about it, I would say disagree, really, because yeah.
Wonderful. But then again, Jitka and Miriam, you've been attending my previous session, so it might have been easier to guess. Those of you who've not met me before, over the last 3 weeks in our sessions on Introduction to Academic Writing, pretty much every 10 minutes I say these 3 things, which is that all we can really say about academic writing is that it needs to be precise, it needs to be concise, and it needs to be respectful. Okay, and another idea, all of these other things, we can kind of push them to one side and say, well, no, let's focus on these 3 things. One of the things that we've been doing in the last few weeks is considering an approach to writing which sees academic writing like a conversation. And we've been using a kind of approach from 2 writers called Grass and Birkenstein, and a really nice book, in my opinion, called They Say, I Say. Hagos, you've asked me to write the name of the author of Writing for University. So I'm just writing it in the chat, but you'll see it on the Google document as well. So this little book is called Writing for University. And another really nice book by Jean Godfrey, which is a bit bigger, is called something like Using Your Reading in Your Essays. So really kind of takes you step by step through kind of how we write an essay based on our reading, which is also what we've been doing in previous sessions around They Say, I Say. Now, this is our starting point for talking about our assignments. We want our writing in assignments to be precise, concise, and respectful. And we want to think about our relationship with our reading almost like a conversation. I think we also need to consider this. Now, the question you see right now, why do we have to write assignments? This is the best question I think I have ever been asked by a student. But in 20 years of working at universities, I have only been asked this question once. So now I'm going to ask you. And again, because I want you to see this as something social and for you to learn together as a community, I'm going to send you to a different breakout room now. And if you don't think you can answer the question, that's absolutely fine. But when you go to the breakout room, consider this. Why do we have to write assignments at university? What's the point? Why do we have to do this and not something else? Okay, I'll send you off to the rooms now. Wonderful. So I'm really happy. I think what together you've identified is that, okay, I know writing assessments can feel very stressful, but usually we design an assignment as a learning experience. It's there for you to explore and to learn a subject. Now, I think in week 1, and I've repeated this, in week 1 and week 2, I was saying that academic communities kind of care about, Tarek, as you said, knowledge. And Shakiba, I think you said understanding, didn't you? These are words that you used: knowledge, understanding, research, analysis. So you talked about like thinking and questioning. There's analysis there.
I think the writing skills are improved too once you do the assignment of writing. And
yeah, absolutely. But I've got a colleague who tells students, and I love this. He says, when I'm reading your assignments, I'm not assessing your writing, I'm assessing your thinking. And assignments do allow you to show your knowledge, your understanding, and your skills, like your ability to analyze. Maybe for some of you, it's about applying what you're learning in class to the real world, to a professional situation. I know we've got a few nurses here, and it's exactly that, right? So just remember that I talk about communities because the people who set your assignments and the people who read your assignments are people. And they're not, they want good things for you. They want you to learn, and they use assignments to check what you know, what you've learned, what you've understood, and how you're able to apply your skills. Okay, and I hope that feels less scary than what you might have thought about assignments previously. Let's go a bit further. Okay, we're going to look a little bit into the difference between like a good and a bad assignment. And what I've got here, this is also from Jean Godfrey, but it's from her other book, kind of using your reading in your writing. Now, what Jean Godfrey did to create this table that you can see is she collected feedback from lecturers on student writing. And as you can see, she's divided it into 2 columns: comments on good work and comments on what she's called poor work. This is in the Google document. So again, when I send you to your groups, you can look at the Google document and see this. But if you find it easier, you could take a photo of the screen now, so you've got the table to look at while you're discussing. Okay. What I'd like you to do when you go to the breakout room, kind of read the comments together. If there's anything in here that you're not sure what it means, check with the other students in your group to see if anyone can explain. But my real challenge for you is, you'll see we've got numbers: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. Now, I have removed any information that shows you what those numbers mean. And my challenge for you in your group, can you guess or can you identify what those numbers might represent? Why has Jean Godfrey put some comments at the bottom and some at the top? Right? Is it random, or is there a particular reason for it? Tell the other people in your group what you think. It's not an easy question. But we already established at the beginning of this session that you are the best students. And if you're watching a recording of this video, then you're like the second best student. But you're the best student, so whatever guesses you make, there won't be bad guesses. Okay, so again, I'm going to I'll change the breakout rooms a little bit so that you get to maybe meet some new people. Again, any problems in the breakout room and you can't see or hear each other, you can come back to me and I can send you to a different one. Okay. So remember that the question is in the Google document as well. Why has Jean Godfrey organized this table in the way that she has done? Yeah, Jitka, you're on mute. Is
it better? Yeah.
Go for it, yeah.
I think these ones are the basic steps you have to follow when you want to write. So you follow first one, which for that, and then you go, and that's what I would say. I would follow that's the basics, from basics to more maybe advanced, writing.
Okay, what do we think of Jitka's answer? Is Jitka a genius?
No. That's what I would say. The basics, and then go a bit higher up.
Yeah. Oh, you're getting rounds of applause.
No.
Sarah,
Yes, I also agree with her.
Yeah.
So I think she's a genius.
I think she's a genius. Wonderful. So, yeah, I think Jitka, you're kind of just about right, but it's not so much the basics, but about the order in which we tackle an assignment. And I have to say that the comments you see under poor work are very, very common. I see them every year. If I make a comment like this on my students, I'm much nicer, but I'm still saying the same thing. Basically, the comments at number 1 represent the very first stage in writing an assignment, and that's understanding the question. Number 2 is about deciding what to read. Number 3 is about kind of understanding what we've read and how we're going to use them. And number 4 is using all of that to demonstrate. As Tarek said, it's really important. It's about demonstrating our understanding of everything we're discussing. But actually, something like number 5 is where you kind of start to get higher grades, engaging critically with the literature. So when you've done enough reading that you feel confident that you can start to, as I think it was Shakiba speaking earlier about how, we might question some of the things that we read. We might compare different perspectives that we've read. That's kind of engaging critically with our reading and going beyond. And number 6 is how we take everything together and apply it to the question. Number 7 is when we write, bringing everything together. And what I'd like you to take away from this session is that in order to write a good assignment, you need to go through these steps. And we have to see that writing an assignment is a process that begins with thinking and then reading and thinking and reading and thinking and reading, and then we start writing. Well, then we start planning and writing. And even while we're writing, we might stop and go back and do some more reading and some more thinking. So if you remember, I'm going to go back to, you can still see my slides, right? Okay. If you remember this, number 10, good writers think, then write, check, and hand in. A lot of students I work with agree with this statement. But this statement is too simple. It's not just first we think, then we write, then we check, then we hand in. Yeah? We do a lot of thinking, a lot of reading, and then more thinking, then more reading. And writing is the last thing that we do. And one of the most common problems I see in student writing, or the biggest mistakes, is when you start writing too soon. Okay, and we've probably all done it. We start writing before we're really ready, and it's slow and it's painful because we don't know what we want to write. We don't have enough real understanding in order to answer a question. And anything we write, we won't feel satisfied with. We probably want to go back and write it again. So it's not, we're all busy people. We're busy and we need a bit more fun, more time for fun and relaxation. So we don't want to waste our time writing before we're ready to write. We need to start with understanding what the question asks of us and using that to start reading and thinking. Okay, and that's what we're going to do kind of for these 3 sessions on tackling assignments. We're going to go through this process. Okay, I've put this in the Google document. It's also from this little book. I wonder, like, it might make sense to you, it might not, but I think for some of you, it might help to see like an assignment with these kind of 5 different aspects to it. It's not just writing. It's about reading. It's about using sources. It's about thinking, understanding, questioning, analyzing, and evaluating what we read a long time before we start writing. So there are lots of different aspects to an assignment. It's not difficult. It's just it has multiple stages and we cannot skip any of the stages. If we go stage by stage, you'll find it quite easy. If you do the reading and thinking about a question, the writing becomes much easier. But writing before you're ready is very, very difficult. It doesn't matter whether you've done it hundreds of times before. I do writing for publication and for other reasons. And if I start to write before I'm ready, I still find it very difficult. Okay. One of the things that's in my document here, and one of the things that this kind of touches upon, is marking criteria or assessment criteria. So I'm not going to spend a long time looking at this because you all belong to different schools. But an important question, if you're thinking about your assignments, have you looked at the marking criteria used to assess your assignments yet? You can say yes or no if you like. Or you can type in the chat. Yes.
Wait until it's provided. It's not provided yet.
It's not provided yet. Okay. If you can't see it yet, I mean, most lecturers want to make it available. Check in your program handbook because sometimes it will be the last few pages. Jitka, I saw you take a photo of the screen, but I just want you to know this is the marking criteria from an MA program that I work on. So it might not be relevant to you, but I just put it here as an example that you're ambitious, so you probably want to look at what's going to get like the good marks, and these are the things we're looking for. Usually we're looking for demonstrations of knowledge and understanding. I think typically, no matter what your subject, the grades above 70 will require some evidence of like critical thinking, critical evaluation, and we'll come back to that in the next couple of weeks. But if you haven't already looked at the marking criteria for your subject, try to find it. If it's not published yet, ask one of your lecturers where you can find it. And really important, if there's words in here that you don't understand, it is your right to ask your teachers. And if you don't feel too comfortable about that, then you're very welcome to send me an email and say, I keep seeing this word in my marking criteria. I don't understand it. and I'll bring it into the next couple of sessions. Okay, which brings us neatly to the issue of assignment questions, and I just want to. I can't go on too late today because I have to go to a parent-teacher consultation online for my daughter's school, right? But I want to introduce you to 3 terms you might have seen before. I think, Vivian, you've definitely seen them before last year. And these words are content, function, and scope. And these are 3 words that I hope will help you to understand and interpret assignment questions. Pretty much every assignment that you are given at university will have content and function. There will be an element of scope as well, but it's not always so obvious. So when I talk about content, I'm talking about kind of what you've told me, like knowledge and understanding of knowledge. Okay? So we said assignments are asking you to show your understanding. So there will be some specific content that is being tested. Function is about like what the assignment is asking you to do. What's your function when you write the essay? And scope is about what are the limits of the assignment. Because university assignments, we can't just say, okay, Miriam, write everything you know about JavaScript. Sorry, I'm not very good with your subject area, but you know, we don't say that. We don't say, Seva, please write everything you know about compassion in nursing, right? This would be huge. We can't do it. So every assignment you have, usually it has a word count, right? So the word count is part of the scope.
Well, this is the problem that I'm struggling with.
Yeah.
It's just a hit, yeah. So I'm looking forward to find an answer. I would like to know more about it.
Okay, okay. So like no assignment is asking you to demonstrate knowledge of everything. Yeah, it's asking you to show knowledge on a very specific element of your subject, and that is the scope of the assignment.
Is that any chance to book or in the future session to bring a sample of my writing and to discuss this?
Yeah, if you want to, if you want to send me things by email, and this is true for everyone. If you want to send me a sample of some writing or an experience or even a question that you're dealing with, and you want me to build it into a workshop, I would rather do that than just give you what I'm about to show you. Last week when I started emailing about, oh, send me questions if you want to, only one person sent me a question. And it's not this one, okay. But I'll give you a demonstration because, if we understand the scope of our assignment, then what we write will be relevant. And often a mistake that students make is that they write about things that aren't being asked by the question. So we often do this when we're not too confident. We think, okay, I've got to write a 2,000 word essay. Okay, if I write some 1,000 words of background, I've done half of the essay. But that's not true because the essay didn't ask you for background, it asked you to answer a question. So here's an example, right? I mentioned earlier, I've got a friend who tells students, I'm not marking your writing, I'm marking your thinking, okay? He's a lecturer in politics and international relations. And this is an assignment from that field. So he writes, compare, contrast, and evaluate liberal and realist approaches to international relations. Don't worry if you don't understand all of the words here. Okay. Content, function, or scope. What do you think? Liberal and realist approaches.
I think liberal and realist approaches would be the scope.
Okay. Could it be anything else, Vivian?
Content as well. Content.
Yeah, actually, this is the key word in the assignment, that students have to demonstrate they understand a liberal approach and a realist approach. Okay, it's easier when it's your own field, and hopefully we'll see that soon. But yeah, Vivian, I think it's sometimes the case that content and scope overlap a little bit, but when we're looking at marking criteria and judging understanding of the subject, we'll be judging whether they understand liberal and realist approaches. Okay. So international relations, content, function, scope.
Functions.
So this is the scope. Okay. The students are being asked to compare, contrast, and evaluate these approaches to international relations, not to another topic, not to domestic politics, not to sociology, not to nursing, not to computer science, not to radiography. How about this?
The function.
Yes. Okay. And function, you might find, is the easiest words to recognize. This is what you're being asked to do. You're being asked to compare, contrast, and evaluate. And do you see a difference in my slide when I do this? Okay. Why do you think I've made evaluate bigger than compare and contrast? Seva, you're on mute.
I think maybe because evaluation is level 7 on academic, it score better marks than compare and contrast.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's not necessarily level 7. This is from a level 3 assignment. It's from a foundation assignment. But yeah, I just highlighted it because sometimes you see these function words, compare, contrast, and evaluate. And what a lot of students do is, compare and contrast. I can do that. And they write a comparison and contrast essay. It happens a lot. You receive an assignment and you think, I would like this to be strengths and weaknesses. I would like this to be pros and cons. I would like to describe something. But as you say, Seva, like the big marks are actually for evaluation, because the evaluation is more difficult. And usually, you're a university student, you might be a postgraduate student. We're looking for you to be able to analyze, discuss, think.
I was saying, Mark, yes, to include all of them is already difficult to to move to the next. But once you have to, it's like juggling with many balls at the same time.
Yeah. Well, actually, compare contrast is kind of the same thing. So we're not doing 3 different things here. We're contrasting 2 things, and there's a way to contrast and evaluate at the same time. But there you go. That's an example of so content, scope, and function. And I'll send you to a breakout room for the last time here. There are 9 more assignment titles. I'll send you to a breakout room so you can look at these together. They're in the Google document, and you can take a photo now. I'll give you 5 minutes because I really need to go. I'll give you 5 minutes, and in each case, see if you can identify the content and the function words. You might not be able to identify a scope word, because in some of these titles, the scope is not made clear. But the scope would be in the instructions, like it's 1,000 words, it's 2,000 words, don't write more than that. Okay. Sometimes lecturers say things like using the reading from this course, or using material from the lectures on this module. So that's the scope. So not everything will have scope here. You can do this together just in a discussion. What are the content words? What are the function words? And can you guess the subject that each assignment has been taken from? Before I send you to the breakout rooms, Hagos has put in a question asking if I can explain a little bit about the appropriate structure. Perfectly good question, but we need a lot of time for that, and we'll be doing that next week and the week after. And the appropriate structure will always depend on your answer to the question. So there's not one single answer to that. So a structure for an assignment will depend on your answer to the question, and of course your answer to the question depends on your reading and your understanding of the question. So you have to first work out what the content and the function of the essay is before you can start thinking about structure. Okay. I will.
Sorry, I need to go because I have to go have an appointment.
No,
I'm sorry.
no problem at all. I'll start some breakout rooms now. Anyone who's still with us in 5 minutes, I'll go through the answers. The answers will be recorded anyway, so you can look at the video for the answers later. Okay. Lovely to meet you, Magdalena.
Nice to meet you too.
See you again soon. Okay. I'm opening the breakout rooms now. Hello and welcome back.
Hello.
Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Am I sharing the Google Doc with you?
Yeah, I see.
Okay.
Discuss the management of materials.
Perfect. I just want to let you know that underneath this exercise and the Google document, I just put a space there. If you've got any questions or requests for future sessions, pop them in there, and then you'll see what other students are writing as well. And I will try to incorporate them in the next 2 sessions. And if we need more than 2 sessions, I will run more than 2 sessions. Okay.
Okay.
I'll try to work out if there's some things I could just put in a short video for you. I could do that, but I'll cover these things live too. So I've already written 3 things that we will definitely cover that you've asked about. So Hagos asked about appropriate structure, and we're definitely looking at that in the next couple of weeks. Tarek, when talking about Turnitin, was kind of talking about like using our own words and our own voice, and that's a really important theme of these sessions too. As is taking a position in relation to these questions. Sever, I think you wanted to add something maybe about like scope and yeah. So but please, if you don't think, if you have something really specific you want to request, if you leave it in this Google document, I will respond to it in the next couple of weeks. And of course, if you see that another student has already written what you would like to write, you don't need to, but you could put in brackets something like, yes, please. Okay. But we're going to look at, I'll quickly give you some answers. I need to briefly mute you. Sorry. Okay. So I asked you if you could guess the subjects. Let's see if I can remember. Number 1 is nursing. Number 2 is business. Number 3 is social work. Number 4 is geology or geography. Number 5 is politics. Number 5 is philosophy. Number 6 is like journalism, media studies. Number 7 is politics. Number 8 is criminology, and number 9 is economics, in case you were wondering. And just like really quickly, there you go. The words in bold are the content words. Any surprises?
No.
I'm surprised about 3 social. No. Actually, I'm not surprised.
I mean, social work practice is also kind of the scope, isn't it? But I thought it was worth highlighting that as content because it's about practice. But certainly understanding culture, race, ethnicity, you have to know what they mean. You have to know what intersection means in order to answer that question. Okay. Any other surprises? Anything else you want to ask?
About 4. How come geology and geography are the content rather than the scope?
Okay. Well, okay. I mean, you're quite right. Most important word is geomorphology, and the students being asked basically what is geomorphology. But I think they have to understand like the limits of geography and geology and the relationship between them. So that is kind of both scope and content, but geomorphology seems to be the most important content. The function words, hopefully these were more straightforward to identify. Number 8 may be difficult because it was are of value. Are these things of value? Any surprises? Any questions?
No.
Okay. You can always email me later if you've got any doubt. Scope was much more difficult, I think you should find. But I think number 1 is a nice example because in nursing, you tend to get very long assignment titles and they tend to ask you to specify, a particular issue. You have to make some decisions about how to narrow down. And sometimes that's where the problem can lie in an assignment. But yeah, a population group in a primary care setting, we've got 2 elements of narrowing down of scope there. But yeah, I think not all of these have an obvious scope. Number 6, you're only being asked to write about the press, for example, not other types of media. Number 2, bribery. We're being asked to talk about bribery only in relation to business practice, not in relation to, I don't know, dealing with the police, for example, or politics. Okay. Any questions, any comments, any surprises?
Yes, Mark, yeah, just a remark. When I was learning for IELTS test, we haven't used this sort of approaches, which brings a different insight on and different perspective on how to approach how do we understand the answer, and how can I develop the depths, and how do I know the depths after I will understand the content, function, and scope? How can I develop the depths and the width for each of those parts?
Well, I think that's a big question. It's what we'll be looking at next week and the week after. The short answer is reading and thinking. Like reading, thinking, and then formulating ideas so that you can plan. Writing is the last stage of that. But it's a really good observation you make about IELTS, because of course IELTS only asks you to write about from your own experience or your own opinion, and you only have to write 250 words. And in reflection, we sometimes ask you to write about experience. But the point I will make next week is that we never ask you about your opinion. We ask you about your position. So next week, I'll try to show you the difference between position and opinion. And also, IELTS never asks you really about content. When you're in, IELTS is just about producing 250 words so that markers can assess the communicative quality and the accuracy of your use of English. Okay. The most important thing here at university is your understanding of content, your ability to analyze, your ability to apply your understanding of content to other contexts. And in that sense, it's very different to IELTS.
Yeah, sorry, Mark. I still use the cause solution approach in order to develop some content and to link it to the scope, because this is the only way that I can I can help myself to draw some boundaries between.
Okay. Well, let's come back to that next week, because I think that's only going to work if the question is calling for it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. I'm really sorry, everyone. I'll show you my last slide. Feel free to add questions into the Google document. Please apply to the assignments that you're working on this semester. Look at the questions. Consider the content that you're being asked to write about. Consider the function of your writing and consider the scope. If you're not sure which one is which, feel free to send me an example of a question and your own comments on it. Bring it next week and we can look at it together. As I said, in the next 2 weeks, we'll be looking particularly at taking a position and how that's at the heart of answering questions. Do get in touch via email if you need anything from me. Do add things to the Google document. I'll look out for it. And I need to go and be a father.
Thank you, Mark.
All right.
Thank you so much.
See you next week.
Thank you.
I'm doing a
Thank you very much.